My mom called and said Grandma's jewelry box was empty. Then my sister's voice cut in. It was you. Within minutes, my whole family had a story and I was the villain. I didn't argue. I hunted for one thing they couldn't twist, a trace on paper. My name is Aaron. I'm 38, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I work as a systems analyst for a mid-sized healthcare company. Nothing glamorous but stable, the kind of job where people only notice you when something breaks. I'm telling you that up front because the story you're about to hear got twisted into something it was never supposed to be. In my family's version, I'm either a desperate thief or a cold, calculating one. In reality, I was the guy who showed up when someone needed help, kept my head down, and tried not to make waves. And that's exactly why my sister thought she could get away with what she did. My sister, Megan, is 2 years older than me. If you've ever lived in a family where one child is the star and the other is the reliable spare, you already understand our dynamic. Megan is loud in a way that reads as confident. She's quick with tears when she needs them, quick with anger when she wants to control a room. She's the type who speaks in headlines, not details. I can't believe you'd do this. Everyone knows what you're like. I'm just trying to protect the family. I'm the opposite. I don't raise my voice unless I'm pushed past the point of recognition. I don't improvise dramatic speeches. I don't win arguments in front of an audience because I'm not trying to perform. Growing up, my mom always called Megan strong. She called me sensitive, like it was a warning label. Our grandmother Evelyn was the only one who never treated me like that was a flaw. Grandma Evelyn didn't coddle me, and she didn't treat me like a fragile project. She just listened. If I said I didn't like how something felt, she didn't tell me I was overreacting. She'd tilt her head, narrow her eyes a little, and say, "Then something's off. Let's figure out what." That woman was sharp. She could be kind without being naive, and she had a quiet way of noticing the truth even when everyone else was distracted by the loudest voice in the room. The last couple years of her life, she downsized, sold her house, moved into a nice assisted living place outside Durham. She kept most of her important documents in a fireproof lockbox, deed paperwork, old tax records, things like that. But she also kept something else that mattered to her, something more personal, her jewelry. Now before you picture a movie vault full of diamonds, let me make it real. There wasn't a crown, there wasn't a tiara. There were pieces collected over a lifetime. A gold locket with a tiny black and white photo of my grandpa inside, a delicate pearl bracelet, a ring with a pale blue stone she wore on Sundays, and a few other items that were valuable enough to matter, but sentimental enough to hurt. Grandma didn't wear most of it anymore. Her hands got stiff, her neck bothered her, but she liked knowing it was there, like proof that her life had been full, that she'd been loved, and she was careful with it. She kept the jewelry in a small wooden box with a hinged lid, the kind that looks ordinary until you lift the top and see the velvet-lined compartments. That box usually stayed in the top drawer of her dresser in her room at assisted living. When she was still mentally sharp, she'd sometimes pull it out and show me a piece, tell me a story, then put it back like she was closing a chapter. The first time she ever let Megan see it, Megan's eyes changed. I noticed it because Grandma noticed it too. Grandma smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. After Megan left the room, Grandma shut the drawer and said, very calmly, "Your sister likes things that shine." I remember laughing a little, like it was just an old woman being funny. Grandma didn't laugh back. "Just keep your eyes open," she told me. "Not because she's evil, because she's hungry." That was Grandma. She didn't do melodrama. She called things what they were. After Grandma's health started slipping, my mom began visiting her more often. Megan did too, at least on paper. She'd post pictures holding Grandma's hand, all filtered and carefully cropped, and write captions about cherishing every moment. But when I visited, the nurses would tell me Megan hadn't been by in weeks. Meanwhile, Megan was always asking questions. What's in the lockbox now? Does Grandma still have that ring? Did she ever say who she wants the jewelry to go to? Does she have anything else valuable? Not in a direct criminal way, in a just curious way, in a we're family we should know these things way. If you've dealt with someone like Megan, you know what that curiosity really is. It's a hand reaching into a drawer you haven't opened yet. Here's the part that still makes my stomach tighten when I think about it. I didn't confront her. Not then. I told myself it would create drama. I told myself it was just Megan being materialistic, not dangerous. I told myself my mom would handle anything serious. I was wrong. The problem started on a Tuesday, just an ordinary Tuesday that was supposed to be quiet. I'd left work a little early because I had a dentist appointment. I was driving back home when my phone lit up with my mom's name. I almost didn't answer. She wasn't the kind to call during work hours unless something was wrong. When I picked up, she didn't say hello. "Aaron," she said, and her voice was thin and sharp like a wire pulled too tight. "Where are you?" "In the car." "Why? Where have you been today?" I frowned, glancing at the traffic ahead of me. "Work." "Dentist." "What's going on?" There was a pause, and in that pause I heard someone else breathing near the phone. "Megan." Then my mom said the words that turned my blood cold. "Grandma's jewelry is gone." I didn't respond fast enough because my brain did that thing where it tries to reject reality for half a second. Like maybe I misheard. Like maybe she said grandma's asterisk jelly asterisk or grandma's asterisk jewels asterisk in a casual way. But no, her jewelry. Gone. I repeated. "What do you mean gone?" "Her box," my mom snapped. "The wooden box, it's empty. And the drawer it was disturbed." That word disturbed hit like an accusation. Not opened. Not moved. Disturbed. I took a breath. "Okay, slow down. Who found it?" "Megan did," my mom said immediately. "She was there this morning. She was helping me straighten up the room. And then, like she couldn't help herself, Megan's voice cut in, loud and shaking. "It was you, Aaron." Just like that. No questions. No confusion. No process of elimination. Straight to my name like she'd been waiting to say it. "What?" I said, and I heard my own voice go flat. "Megan, what are you talking about? You're always so weird about money," she said, talking fast now, building momentum. "You act like you're above everyone, but you're struggling. And you were there last week. You were alone with Grandma." I gripped the steering wheel harder. "I visited Grandma. Yes, like a normal person. I wasn't alone with her. A nurse came in twice." My mom cut in again, breathy and furious. "Aaron, don't play games. Megan said the box was fine last time she checked it." I blinked at that. Last time she checked it. As soon as I said it, I knew it was the wrong thing to focus on. In my family, you don't challenge the golden child's wording. You don't question the assumption that she has the right to check what belongs to someone else. You don't ask why she's monitoring Grandma's jewelry like it's inventory. But I said it anyway, because that's how my brain works. I hear a sentence. I test whether it makes sense. Megan scoffed into the phone. "Oh my God, are you seriously going to nitpick words right now? Grandma's jewelry is missing and you're getting defensive." "I'm not getting defensive," I said, though my jaw was already tight. "I'm trying to understand what happened." "You're trying to stall," Megan shot back. "That's what you do. You confuse people until they give up." My mom made a sound like she was swallowing anger. "Aaron, if you took it, you need to bring it back. Right now. Before we have to." "Before we have to what?" She didn't finish the sentence, but Megan did. "Before we call the police." It was said like a threat and a promise at the same time. I pulled into a parking lot because I could feel my hands starting to shake, not with guilt, but with disbelief. That hot, crawling feeling you get when someone is pointing at you and the crowd is already turning. "Listen to me," I said slowly. "I didn't take Grandma's jewelry. I haven't even been to assisted living since last week, and I was there for 20 minutes. I sat with her. We talked. That's it." Megan laughed once, sharp and ugly. "Of course you're going to say that. What proof do you have?" I asked. "Proof," Megan repeated, and I could practically hear her widening her eyes from my mom, performing outrage. "The proof is it's gone after you were there." "That's not proof," I said. "That's timing, and you don't even know when it disappeared." "We know enough," my mom said, and her tone changed. It got colder, more official, like she was stepping into the role she always steps into when conflict happens, judge, not witness. "Aaron," she continued, "your sister is terrified. Grandma is upset. Everyone is upset. And you're the last person we can account for being near it." That sentence was insane on its face, but I understood exactly what was happening. Megan had created a storyline fast enough that my mom could climb into it before she had to do the uncomfortable work of questioning her daughter's motives. And once my mom climbed into it, the rest of the family would follow. Because my family doesn't investigate. My family chooses a side. I could already picture the group text. "Megan found the jewelry missing. Aaron was there. We need to do something." My Aunt Linda would send praying hands and say she always had a bad feeling about me. My cousin would say, "Wow," and act like it was gossip. My uncle would talk about consequences like he was on a courtroom show. And Megan would sit back and watch it spread. I forced myself to speak evenly. "I'm coming over," I said. "I'm going to see Grandma. And I'm going to talk to the staff." Because if something is missing, there are procedures. Megan jumped in again, instantly. Oh, so now you want to talk to staff. You want to control the narrative. I want the truth, I said. You want time, she snapped. My mom said, just come. But Aaron, if you make this worse, I swear. I ended the call before she could finish. Not because I was afraid of what she'd say, but because I knew what would happen if I stayed on the phone. Megan would keep throwing accusations like darts until I reacted emotionally, and then that reaction would become her evidence. That's her talent. She doesn't need facts. She needs a moment, a raised voice, a curse word, a slammed door, anything she can hold up and say, see, look how he acts. I sat in my car in that parking lot for a full minute, staring at my hands on the wheel. Here's what I wanted to do: call everyone, defend myself, explain every detail of my week, show receipts, prove my location, beg them to slow down. But another part of me, older, tired, and finally learning, recognized the trap. When you're dealing with someone who accuses like a sport, the more you scramble to prove yourself with personal explanations, the more you lose. Because personal explanations can be argued with, receipts can be dismissed, memories can be misremembered. But official traces, documentation, a paper trail created by people who don't care about family politics, that's different. So instead of launching into a frantic defense, I made myself focus on one thing. If someone took jewelry and tried to convert it to cash, there would be an imprint somewhere. A policy, a form, a record, a camera, something. Not drama, not emotion. A trace. By the time I drove to assisted living, my phone had already started blowing up. Texts from my aunt, missed call from my uncle, a message from my cousin that just said, "Dude, is it true?" Megan was moving fast, and the worst part was, I could feel the old family roles snapping into place like magnets. Megan, the victim hero protecting Grandma. Me, the problem, the disappointment, the one everyone has to manage. I walked through the assisted living lobby with my pulse steady but my stomach tight, like I was walking into a room where I'd already been convicted. At the front desk, the receptionist looked up and smiled politely, then hesitated when she recognized my face, like she could sense the tension behind me before I even spoke. "I'm here to see Evelyn Parker," I said. "And I need to speak with whoever is in charge today about a missing item from her room." That was the first time I saw it, the flicker of concern, the professional switch flipping behind the receptionist's eyes. Missing item. That's not a family argument. That's a report. She nodded. "Let me get the nurse supervisor." As I waited, I could hear voices down the hallway. My mom's, sharp and upset, and Megan's, louder, dramatic, carrying like she wanted an audience. And I realized something that should have hit me years ago. Megan didn't just want the jewelry. She wanted the story. She wanted the family to see her as the one who caught me, the one who protected Grandma, the one who finally exposed what she'd always implied about me. Because in our family, being right isn't as powerful as being seen as right. I took a slow breath and reminded myself of my plan. Let them talk. Let them perform. I was done wrestling in mud. I was going to find the trace they couldn't talk their way out of. The nurse supervisor came out a few minutes later, a woman in her 40s named Denise with a tight bun and the kind of calm that doesn't come from being unbothered but from handling emergencies daily. She introduced herself, then looked at me like she was already triaging the situation. "Mr. Parker?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I'm Aaron." She nodded once. "Your mother mentioned a missing jewelry box." Before I could answer, Megan's voice rang out from down the hall, loud enough to make sure Denise heard her. "He stole it." Denise didn't flinch. She didn't take the bait. She just looked from me to the hallway and then back again, like she was deciding who was safe to talk to without turning it into a circus. "I'm going to need to ask a few questions," Denise said carefully, "and I need everyone to keep their voices down. This is a resident community." "Tell that to him," Megan snapped as she appeared beside my mom, her face red like she'd been crying. "He's been lying all day." My mom stood next to her, arms folded, jaw clenched, looking at me with the same expression she used to give me when I was a teenager and she'd already decided I was guilty. Denise kept her tone even. "We handle missing property in a specific way. First we confirm what's missing, then we document, then we check staff access logs and room entry records. If needed, we contact law enforcement." Megan immediately latched onto the last part. "Yes, contact law enforcement. Because this is theft." My mom nodded like it was obvious. "It's valuable, and Grandma is devastated." I hadn't even seen Grandma yet. That detail, devastated, was already being turned into a weapon. Denise turned her eyes to me again. Mr. Parker, do you have any information about the jewelry? When did you last see it? Last week, I said. But I didn't open the box. I sat with Grandma and talked. She mentioned her hands hurting. That was it. Megan scoffed. Convenient. Denise raised a hand slightly, a silent request for Megan to stop. And when you visited last week, did you have any bags with you? A backpack? A tote? No, I said, and it was the truth. Just my phone and my keys. Denise nodded. Okay, here's what we can do right now. I need one person to come with me to confirm the item is missing and to help inventory what was there. We also need the resident to tell us what belongs to her. My mom stepped forward immediately, as if her moving first made her the authority. I'll come. Megan stepped forward too, like she couldn't stand not being central. Me too. I found it. I should be there. Denise hesitated. We generally limit it. Too many people can create confusion. Megan's eyes widened with offense, like she'd been insulted personally. So I'm being excluded. After what happened, Denise held her ground politely. I'm not excluding you. I'm trying to keep this professional. Then Denise looked at me again. Mr. Parker, you can also come, if you'd like. Megan's head snapped toward Denise. Absolutely not. He can't come. He'll try to hide something. That was the moment my control almost slipped. Not because I was scared, but because it was so blatant. Megan wasn't interested in solving anything. She was interested in controlling access to the scene. Denise's voice turned firmer. No one is hiding anything in this facility. If there is a theft, we document it and handle it appropriately. My mom's face tightened. Denise, I don't mean to be difficult, but my son. Your son is family, Denise said, still calm. And he has a right to be present if the resident allows it. Let's ask Miss Evelyn. That was the first sane thing anyone had said since the phone call. We walked down the hall together, the four of us, and I could feel the eyes of staff and residents turning toward the noise. Megan walked like a prosecutor escorting the accused. My mom walked like she'd already mourned something and needed a villain to make sense of it. And I walked like I was holding a fragile piece of glass inside my chest, the last shred of belief that my family would pause and think. Denise knocked on Grandma's door and entered gently. Grandma Evelyn was sitting in her chair by the window, a knitted blanket over her lap. She looked smaller than the last time I'd seen her, but her eyes were still sharp. When she saw all of us, her gaze flicked across our faces, and she made a soft sound like she already knew this wasn't a social visit. What's all this? She asked. My mom rushed to her side. Mom, sweetheart, we're just… Megan cut in, voice trembling with performative emotion. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I found your jewelry box and it was empty. We're going to fix it, I promise. Grandma's eyes narrowed slightly. Empty, she repeated, and her voice didn't crack. It went steady. Dangerous in the quiet way. Denise approached her with a clipboard. Miss Parker, I'm Denise, the nurse supervisor today. We need to ask you about a missing item. Grandma looked at Denise, then looked straight at me. That look, like she was checking where I stood, was the first thing that made me feel less alone. I stepped forward and kept my voice low. Hi, Grandma. I'm here. Her gaze stayed on my face a beat longer than normal. Then she said, good, one word. But it landed like a hand on my shoulder. Denise asked, Miss Parker, do you want your family present while we document this? Grandma didn't look at Megan when she answered. I want my grandson present, she said, and she nodded at me. Aaron stays. Megan opened her mouth, outraged, but my mom touched her arm. Mom, this isn't the time. Grandma lifted a hand slightly. It's exactly the time. The room got quiet, the kind of quiet that makes people shift their weight. Denise nodded. Okay, thank you. Let's locate the jewelry box and confirm what's missing. My mom went straight to the dresser drawer and pulled it open hard. The wooden box was there, sitting like always, but when my mom flipped it open, the velvet compartments were bare. Megan made a sound like she'd been punched. See? But Grandma didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She leaned forward, staring at the empty box like she was reading a page with missing lines. Denise asked gently, Miss Parker, can you tell me what was inside? Any identifying details? Grandma's eyes didn't leave the box. Gold locket, she said. Oval. My Harold's photo inside. My mom nodded quickly, almost frantic. Yes, that one. Pearl bracelet, Grandma continued. Not round pearls. Slightly uneven. It was my sister's. Denise wrote carefully. Ring with the blue stone, Grandma said, and this time she looked at me. The one with the little scratch near the setting. I blinked. I remembered that scratch. I remembered her showing it to me once, irritated that the jeweler couldn't polish it out without damaging the prongs. Denise kept writing. Any engravings, initials? Grandma's mouth tightened. The locket has AE inside. The ring has a mark too. Not an engraving, a tiny notch. I did it myself. That detail mattered. A mark only she knew about. Something you couldn't fake easily. Megan shifted, her confidence wobbling just a fraction. Grandma, you don't have to. Grandma cut her off without raising her voice. I do have to. Then she looked directly at Megan for the first time and said, You were helping straighten up today. Megan straightened, performing innocence. Yes, Mom asked me to. I just wanted to help. Grandma's eyes moved to my mom. And you let her go through my things. My mom looked startled, like she hadn't expected that question to come from Grandma. Mom, she wasn't. She was just tidying. Tidying my jewelry drawer, Grandma said, dry as dust. Denise cleared her throat gently, trying to steer it back. Miss Parker, we'll open a missing property report. We also have keycard access logs for staff. Family members and visitors are recorded through the front desk sign-in. I seized on that immediately. Can I get a copy of the incident report and the sign-in log for today? I asked Denise. Megan snapped her head toward me. Why? So you can plan your story. I ignored her. I want to know who was in her room and when. That's all. Denise nodded slowly. We can provide a summary to the responsible party. Your mother is listed as primary. My mom's chin lifted slightly, like that fact alone proved her authority. But Grandma spoke again. Aaron gets it too. My mom's eyes widened. Mom, this is... I said what I said, Grandma replied. He's the only one here asking questions that make sense. That stung my mom, I could tell. But it also did something else. It made Megan's face harden. Because now the story Megan was writing, where she was the hero and I was the thief, had an unexpected problem. Grandma wasn't cooperating. Denise continued documenting while my mom hovered, and Megan paced like she couldn't stand still. I stayed by the window, close enough to hear but far enough to avoid the emotional crossfire. Then Denise asked a question that made Megan freeze for half a second. Has anyone discussed taking these items to be appraised or sold recently? Denise asked. Sometimes residents move valuables off-site without telling family, and later it's assumed missing. Megan laughed too quickly. No, Grandma would never do that. Grandma looked at her. Wouldn't I? Megan's smile faltered. I mean, Grandma, you love those pieces. Grandma's eyes narrowed. Loving something doesn't mean you keep it forever. Denise wrote something down and then said, We'll also check with housekeeping and maintenance. If the drawer was disturbed, we need to know if any staff entered unscheduled. Megan crossed her arms. Or maybe we just need to check Aaron's apartment. My mom nodded, and there it was. My mother agreeing with something that insane because it was easier than admitting she'd raised someone capable of lying. I felt my pulse spike, but I forced my voice to stay controlled. You're not coming into my apartment, I said. Not without a warrant. And I didn't take it. Megan's eyes flashed. So you admit the police should be involved? I stared at her. If you truly believe I stole from Grandma, then file the report. Do it. But I'm not playing family detective while you shout accusations. The room went very still. My mom looked like she couldn't decide whether to be offended or scared, because people who are bluffing hate when you call their bluff. Denise's expression didn't change, but her tone sharpened slightly. Let's all take a breath. This is a serious accusation. Megan turned to Denise, voice sweetening. I'm sorry, I'm just... Grandma is vulnerable, and Aaron has always resented. Stop, Grandma said, flat. Megan blinked. Grandma? Grandma's voice was soft, but it carried authority like a gavel. You don't get to tell stories about people in my room. Megan swallowed hard, then nodded like she was being wronged. Fine, I'm just trying to protect you. And that was the moment I noticed something else. Small but wrong. On the dresser, near the lamp, there was a folded piece of paper. Not a letter, not a greeting card. A plain slip, folded twice. I'd never seen Grandma keep random slips out like that. She was neat, intentional. I didn't reach for it. Not yet. I just clocked it in my mind. Because if there was one thing I knew, it was this. When something feels off, it usually is. And the smallest details are often the only honest ones. Denise finished the initial report and said she would coordinate with the facility administrator to pull sign-in logs and review any available hallway camera footage, Not inside rooms, obviously, but entrances, exits, common areas. Megan perked up. Yes, cameras, great. She sounded confident again, like she thought cameras only mattered if you were catching me in the act. I stayed quiet, but inside I held on to one thought. Cameras don't care who the family likes. As we left Grandma's room, my mom pulled Denise aside, speaking in a low voice that still carried through the hallway. I don't want this to become a huge scandal, my mom said, but if it was Aaron, we need to handle it quickly. I watched Denise's face tighten slightly at that. Not in agreement, in concern. And Megan, standing just behind my mom, looked straight at me and mouthed, "You're done." Not whispered, not implied, clear. I didn't react. I just looked back at her until she glanced away. Outside, in the parking lot, my mom turned on me like the hallway conversation had fueled her. "I don't know why you're doing this," she said. "I raised you better than this." "I didn't do anything," I replied. Megan jumped in, voice shaking again. "Then why won't you just let us look? If you're innocent, why are you acting so guilty?" I exhaled slowly. "Because I'm not letting you stage a search so you can find something. Because I've seen how you operate." My mom gasped like I'd slapped Megan. "Aaron." Megan's eyes filled with tears instantly, like a switch flipped. "Wow, so now I'm framing you? That's your story." "I'm not telling a story," I said quietly. "I'm waiting for evidence." Megan wiped her cheek dramatically. "Fine, let's talk evidence. I already called Officer Reyes. He's a family friend. He said we can file a report today." My stomach dipped. Not because I feared the truth, but because I understood what Megan was doing, using the threat of arrest to force me into a desperate reaction. My mom looked almost relieved. "Good." I nodded once. "File it," I said. "I'll cooperate. And I'll also request the facility's logs, and I'll ask the officer how pawn transactions are handled in this county." Megan blinked. "What?" I kept my tone even. "Jewelry doesn't vanish into thin air. If someone stole it, they either kept it, gifted it, or tried to convert it into money. Converting it leaves a trail." Megan laughed, but it sounded thin. "You watch too much TV." "Maybe," I said. "But I also know how systems work. Everything that touches a process leaves a record." My mom shook her head like I was being stubborn. "Aaron, you're making this worse. Just give it back." I leaned closer, just enough that my mom could hear me clearly over Megan's sniffing. "I can't give back what I don't have," I said. "But I can tell you this. Whoever did has already made a mistake. Because Grandma's pieces have identifying marks, and businesses document what they take in." Megan's eyes hardened again, and for a second her tears stopped like they were never real. Then she looked away quickly and said, "Officer Reyes will sort it out." That night I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, looking up pawn shop laws in North Carolina, reading about hold periods, police reporting requirements, and identification rules. I learned that many pawn shops are required to report acquired items daily to law enforcement databases. I learned they photograph items, they record descriptions, sometimes serial numbers, sometimes engravings, sometimes just enough detail to match. And most importantly, I learned something that made my pulse slow down for the first time since this started. Pawn shops issue tickets, receipts, transaction records, a physical piece of paper tied to a specific person's ID, a trace. At around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a Facebook post, Megan's post, a photo of Grandma's hands taken months ago, with a caption that read, "Family is everything, and I will do whatever it takes to protect my grandmother, even if it means making hard choices." Under it were comments from relatives praising her bravery. And then in the comments, my Aunt Linda wrote, "If it was Aaron, he should be arrested." My stomach turned, but not from fear, from clarity. Megan wasn't just accusing me privately. She was building public pressure, so if the truth came out later, people would still feel committed to her version. I stared at the screenshot until my eyes hurt. Then I opened a new note on my phone and wrote 3 words, "Find the ticket." Because in my gut I already believed the jewelry had been walked out of that building by someone who thought family loyalty would protect them. And if that person had tried to pawn it even once, then somewhere out there was a record with a name attached. The next morning, I got another call from Denise. "We have the sign-in logs for the past week," she said. "I can't email them without administrator approval, but I can tell you what they show." I held my breath. "Okay. There were only 3 family visits logged in the last 7 days," Denise continued. "Your mother, your sister, and you, of course. And staff access?" I asked. "We're pulling keycard data," Denise said. "But Aaron, I need to be careful what I say. This will go to administration. I understand, I said. Just tell me if there's anything unusual. There was a pause, and then Denise said quietly, there was a maintenance entry yesterday afternoon, but it was scheduled. 2 staff members, logged. That wasn't enough to accuse anyone, but it was enough to remind me, if I wanted a clean answer, I couldn't rely on whispers. I needed a record outside the family. After I hung up, I grabbed my keys and left my apartment. I wasn't going back to argue with Megan. I wasn't going to beg my mom to believe me. I was going to start where records live. I drove to the nearest pawn shop in my area, not because I was sure it was the one, but because I needed to understand how the process worked from the inside. The neon pawn sign flickered in the window. Inside, the air smelled like old electronics and dust. A man behind the counter looked up at me, wary. I swallowed, then asked the question that felt like the first real step toward the truth. If someone brought in jewelry to sell recently, I said, what kind of paperwork would you give them? He leaned back slightly, studying me. Depends, pawn or outright sale, but either way there's always a ticket. A ticket. And suddenly the whole case stopped feeling like a family argument and started feeling like something solvable, because tickets don't take sides. A ticket, I repeated like I needed to hear the word twice for it to become real. The clerk nodded toward a stack of forms behind him. We take your ID, we take your thumbprint, we take a photo of the item, we print the ticket. Everything's logged. If the cops call, we pull the record. Is there a hold period? I asked. He gave me a look that said I wasn't the average customer. Yeah, state requires a hold. Different for pawn versus buy. But the point is, it sits. People can't just flip it same day without leaving tracks. That one sentence did something to me. It turned my panic into direction. I didn't say my grandmother's name. I didn't say my sister's name. I just kept it procedural. If a family member reports jewelry stolen, I asked, and you happen to take in something that matches, how does that work? He shrugged. Cops place a hold. We cooperate. But we don't hand out customer information to random people. No offense. None taken, I said. That's exactly what I need. A system that doesn't care about family stories. I left the pawn shop with a new to-do list in my head and a new rule for myself. No more arguing with Megan in the emotional arena she controlled. I was going to live in paperwork and timestamps. On the drive back, my mom called me 3 times. I let it go to voicemail. The third voicemail was her crying. Aaron, please, she said, voice shaking. If you did this, if you're in trouble, just tell me. We can fix it as a family. But Megan is scared. Grandma is scared. They're talking about charges. Fix it as a family. That phrase always meant the same thing. Admit guilt, apologize, absorb consequences, so the family can go back to pretending everything is fine. I deleted the voicemail. Not because I didn't love my mother, but because I finally understood something I'd been slow to learn. You can't build truth on top of someone else's denial. I drove straight to the police station. Not the friendly Officer Reyes route Megan had lined up. I asked at the front desk who handled property crimes and stolen goods. A woman behind the glass gave me a card for a detective named Halvorsen and told me to call during business hours. It's related to an elder theft, I said. My grandmother's jewelry went missing from assisted living. That got her attention. Fill out an incident supplement, she said, sliding a clipboard through the slot. Even if there's already a report. There is already a report, I said, filed against me. Her eyebrows lifted just slightly. Then you definitely want your own statement on record. Exactly. I wrote everything in clean, unemotional sentences. Dates, times, last visit, the names of the pieces, identifying marks Grandma had mentioned, the EH inside the locket, the scratch near the blue stone, the notch Grandma cut herself. I didn't accuse Megan in that report. Not yet. I didn't need to. Not while I was still collecting the kind of evidence that survives scrutiny. When I left the station, my phone buzzed with a text from Megan. I knew it was her without even looking, because she texted the way she spoke, like she was giving a statement to an imaginary jury. Megan, Reyes said if you cooperate it will look better for you. I stared at the message until my eyes burned. Then I typed back one sentence. Me. I will cooperate with the investigation, not with your narrative. She didn't reply. That silence felt like a door closing. Later that afternoon, I went back to Grandma's assisted living. Not to rehash the drama, not to beg for sympathy, because that place wasn't safe for emotions anymore. I went because of something small I couldn't shake, that folded slip of paper on Grandma's dresser. When I arrived, Denise met me near the front desk. Her expression was careful, professional, but I could tell she was aware of how ugly this had gotten. "Your mother and sister were here earlier," she said quietly. "Of course they were," I replied. Denise lowered her voice even more. "Mr. Parker, I can't share details I'm not authorized to, but I can tell you we're taking this seriously. Administration is involved, and we did secure the room." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. "Can I see Grandma for a few minutes? Alone?" Denise hesitated. "She's resting, but I'll ask." Grandma was awake. When I stepped into her room, she looked up at me, and for a second her face softened. Then she glanced toward the door like she was making sure no one else was coming. "You're not yelling," she said. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "I'm trying not to." Grandma nodded slowly, like that confirmed something for her. "Sit." I pulled the chair close to her, and I kept my voice low. "Grandma, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer like you're talking to me, not like you're trying to protect Mom's feelings." Grandma's eyes narrowed. "That means you think your mother is being foolish." "I think she's being led," I said. "And I think Megan is enjoying it." Grandma's mouth tightened, but she didn't argue. That was her way of saying she wasn't surprised. I gestured toward the dresser. "Yesterday I saw a folded piece of paper on your dresser. Do you know what it was?" Grandma stared at the dresser like she was searching her memory. "A paper," she murmured. "Yes, I remember a paper." "What kind of paper?" I asked. "Mail? A receipt?" She frowned. "Not mail. Small. Thin." My pulse ticked up. "Do you know where it is now?" Grandma's eyes drifted toward the trash can beside the dresser. "They've been tidying," she said, and there was contempt in that single word. I stood up slowly, trying to keep my movements casual, and looked into the trash. Empty. Too empty. Not a resident tossed tissues and wrappers empty. Clean. I looked back at Grandma. Denise said they secured the room. Grandma's voice dropped. Secured after the shouting. That was the truth of it. Whatever paper was here had plenty of time to disappear. I sat again, forcing my mind to stay logical. "Grandma, did you take any of your jewelry out of the box recently?" Her eyes snapped to mine. "No. Did you give it to Mom?" I asked. "Or to Megan?" Grandma's face hardened. "No. Did anyone ask you to?" I pressed. Grandma didn't answer right away. Instead, she said, "Your sister asked me what I wanted to do with it." I felt heat crawl up the back of my neck. "And what did you say?" I told her I hadn't decided. Grandma said, "That she was being rude." I swallowed. What did she say back? Grandma's eyes went distant, and when she spoke again, her voice was flat. She said people my age forget things, that it would be safer if the family handled it. I exhaled slowly, and then she started checking the box. Grandma gave a small nod, like she was counting someone else's money. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I leaned in, keeping my tone gentle. "Grandma, I'm going to ask you one more thing, and I need you to be honest, even if it makes you uncomfortable." Grandma's eyes didn't blink. "Ask. Do you think Megan took it?" Grandma held my gaze for a long time. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I think your sister is capable of taking it," she replied carefully, "and I think your mother is capable of believing her." That sentence hit like a verdict. Not because it accused Megan directly, Grandma was too smart for that without proof, but because it named the real problem: capability and belief, motive and cover. I stood up and touched Grandma's hand gently. "I'm going to find the record," I said. "There's a way this gets documented outside the family." Grandma squeezed my fingers with surprising strength. "Do it quietly," she said, "and do it correctly." "I will," I promised. As I left her room, Denise was waiting in the hallway. She glanced behind me, then leaned in slightly. "You didn't hear this from me," she said softly, "but administration did pull hallway footage from yesterday morning." My heart jumped, and Denise's face stayed neutral. "I can't tell you what it shows, but you're right to focus on records." That was all she said, but it was enough. Enough to tell me there was something on that footage that didn't match the story Megan was selling. On my way out, I got another message, this time from my Aunt Linda. "Aunt Linda, your grandmother is old and confused. Megan is the only one protecting her. If you have any decency, return what you stole." I stared at the screen, feeling a strange calm settle over me. This was the part of the process where people expected me to break, to lash out, to send a long defensive paragraph, to plead. Instead, I typed back, "Please don't contact me about this again. Law enforcement can reach me if needed." Then I blocked her. That was new for me, and it felt solid. That evening, Detective Halverson finally called me back. His voice was gravelly, tired, like he'd heard every excuse in the world and didn't have patience for theater. "You're Aaron Parker?" he asked. "Yes. I see you filed a supplemental statement about missing jewelry from your grandmother," he said. "And there's already a report filed by your sister alleging you took it." "Correct," I said. "I didn't take it. And I want you to look at pawn shop reporting." There was a pause. "Why pawn shops?" "Because jewelry is easy to convert," I replied. "And because pawn shops generate tickets and ID records. My grandmother's pieces have identifying marks." Halverson made a sound like he was shifting in his chair. "You've dealt with stolen property before." "No," I said. "I work with systems. I know how records work." Another pause. Then, "Okay, tell me the pieces." I listed them again, slowly, with details. The oval gold locket, the EH inside, the pearl bracelet with uneven pearls, the blue stone ring with the scratch and the notch. Halverson listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "We can put an alert out. If a pawn shop logs items matching, it flags." My throat tightened. "So if someone brought them in already, then it may already be in the database," he said. "Or it may appear in the next upload. Depends on the shop." "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Stay available," Halvorsen said. "And don't confront anyone. If your sister did it, and you spook her, she dumps the rest." I almost laughed at the irony. Megan had been trying to spook me into confessing since day one. "I won't confront her," I said. "But detective, my family is already pushing for my arrest. If your story holds, you're not getting arrested," he said bluntly. "But that doesn't mean you won't be questioned. Don't consent to searches without understanding your rights. If you feel pressured, get a lawyer." That was the first time anyone in authority had spoken to me like I was a person, not a villain. "Thank you," I said. Before he hung up, Halverson added, "One more thing. Pawn shops don't just hand property back. If it's pawned, there's a redemption process. There's always a ticket." The word again. Ticket. That night, my mom showed up at my apartment. I wasn't expecting it. When I opened the door and saw her standing there with swollen eyes, I felt something twist in my chest. Old instincts, old guilt. She stepped inside without asking, looked around like she was searching for something invisible. "You look tired," she said. "I am," I replied. Mom's lips trembled. "Megan says you're being cold." I stared at her. "Mom, I'm being accused of stealing from Grandma. What emotion would you prefer?" "Cheerful." She flinched, like that tone was unfamiliar coming from me. "I don't want to believe it," she whispered. "But you do," I said. Mom swallowed. "Aaron, if it wasn't you, then who?" I held her gaze. "That's the question you should have asked before my name left Megan's mouth." Her eyes filled with tears. "She wouldn't." I didn't argue. I didn't say yes, she would. I just asked, "Why are you here, Mom?" She took a shaky breath. "Officer Reyes wants you to come in tomorrow, just to talk. Megan thinks if you explain, it'll clear up." I almost smiled at the wording. Explain. Like the problem was my failure to perform innocence convincingly enough. "I already filed my statement," I said, "and I'm speaking to Detective Halverson." My mom blinked. "Who?" "Property crimes," I said. "Not a family friend." Her face tightened. "Aaron, you're escalating this." "No," I replied. "I'm stabilizing it. You can't solve this with feelings." Mom's voice rose. "She's your sister. And Grandma is my grandmother." I snapped back, then forced myself to lower my tone again. "I'm not letting anyone ruin my life because they want a scapegoat." My mom looked at me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe she didn't, because for the first time I wasn't begging to be included in the family's version of reality. I walked to my front door and opened it. "I love you," I said, "but if you're here to pressure me into confessing to something I didn't do, you need to leave." Her mouth opened, then closed. She stood there, shaking. "Please," I added, "go home." She left without another word. After she was gone, my hands shook. Not because I regretted it, but because I knew I'd crossed a line my family depended on me never crossing. I'd stopped being manageable. The next morning I got a call from Detective Halverson. His voice was different, focused. "Parker," he said, "I need you to listen carefully." My heart started thudding. "Okay, we got a hit," he said. I stood perfectly still in my kitchen. "A hit where?" "A shop outside Durham uploaded inventory last night," Halverson replied. "One of the items matches your description, down to the initials." My mouth went dry. The locket? I'm not confirming which piece over the phone, he said. But yes, matching marks. And we put a hold on it. I swallowed hard. So you know who brought it in? Pause. We have a name on a transaction, Halverson said. And we have the paperwork. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Is it? Don't guess, he cut in. Not yet. I need you to come down here today. And I need you to bring any photos you have of your grandmother wearing the items. Anything that proves ownership. I can do that, I said, voice tight. Halverson exhaled slowly. Also, there's something else. The shop manager found the hold ticket in their files. It turned up in a way that makes this more complicated. My stomach dropped. What do you mean turned up? It means someone is already trying to redeem the item, he said. And they can't do it without that ticket. I gripped the edge of my counter. So whoever pawned it is coming back. Yes, Halverson said. And when they do, we'll have them on camera, with their ID, signing paperwork. I closed my eyes. For the first time since this started, I felt the shift, the subtle turning of a wheel. Megan had tried to turn my family into a courtroom, but pawn shops don't run on emotion. They run on tickets. I drove to my mom's house first, not because I wanted to see anyone, but because most of the old family photos were still there. I needed proof of ownership, something outside of memory and emotion. When I pulled into the driveway, Megan's car was already there. Of course, I sat in my car for a full 10 seconds, staring at her license plate like it could tell me what kind of person she really was. Then I got out and walked up to the front door. My mom answered fast, like she'd been waiting. Her eyes were puffy. She looked exhausted in a way that wasn't just lack of sleep. It was the fatigue of living inside a story she couldn't control anymore. "Erin," she whispered. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I need photos of Grandma wearing the jewelry. Old albums." My mom hesitated. "Why?" "Detective Halverson found one of the items in a pawn database," I said, keeping my voice steady. "They put a hold on it. He asked me for proof." My mom's face drained of color. "They found it?" "Yes," I said, "and someone is trying to redeem it." Before my mom could respond, Megan appeared in the hallway behind her like she'd been summoned by the word pawn. She was wearing a soft sweater, hair neatly done, face composed, too composed for someone who had been devastated about Grandma being robbed. Her eyes flicked over me quickly, sharp as a blade. "What's going on?" she asked, voice sweet. I didn't answer her. I looked at my mom. "Where are the photo albums?" Megan's smile tightened. "Why are you in Mom's house like you own it? You're supposed to be cooperating with Officer Reyes." "I'm cooperating with the actual investigation," I said, and walked past her before she could block me. My mom followed, wringing her hands. "Erin, please, don't provoke her." That sentence, "don't provoke her," told me everything. It meant my mom wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of Megan. We went to the living room where the old albums were stacked in a cabinet. I pulled them out and started flipping, fast but careful, scanning faces and hands and necklines the way you'd scan a document for key words. Megan hovered behind me, arms folded. "You're really doing this," she said, voice low. "You're trying to set me up now." I didn't look up. "If the record shows you pawned Grandma's jewelry, the record shows it. That's not me setting anything up." Megan let out a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "You always wanted to be the victim." I finally looked at her. "Megan, I was accused of theft, publicly. You tried to get me arrested. How am I not the victim in that?" Her eyes flashed. "Because you're not innocent." I went back to the albums, refusing to feed her. That's what she wanted, an argument she could later describe however she liked. A few minutes later, I found what I needed. A photo from my cousin's wedding years ago. Grandma in a navy dress, the oval locket visible against her chest. Even in the grainy print you could see the gold shine and the distinct shape. Then another photo. Christmas morning at my mom's house. Grandma smiling in a chair, her wrist turned slightly, the pearl bracelet visible, uneven pearls catching the light. Then finally, a close-up from a family picnic. Grandma holding a paper plate with a slice of pie. On her right hand, the blue stone ring, pale, unmistakable. I took crisp photos of each print with my phone, making sure the dates written on the album pages were captured too. Megan watched in silence, but I could feel her thoughts racing. For the first time since this started, her confidence looked forced, like she was holding it together by sheer will. As I stood to put the albums back, my mom's voice shook. "Erin," she whispered, "who pawned it?" I held her gaze. "Detective didn't tell me on the phone, but he said they have a name attached to the transaction. Megan took a step forward, eyes wide, performing disbelief. This is insane. You're letting him. Mom, you're letting him manipulate you. I picked up my keys. I'm leaving. I have to get these to the detective. My mom grabbed my arm lightly. Please, just tell me you didn't do it. I looked at her, and I hated how much it still hurt to be asked that. I didn't, I said, and I'm done trying to prove it to you with words. Then I left. At the police station, Detective Halverson met me in a small interview room. He was in plain clothes, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes and a demeanor that suggested he had no patience left for family drama. He took my phone, looked at the photos, and nodded once. This helps, he said. Ownership and identification. Good. Can you tell me who pawned it? I asked. Halverson leaned back slightly. Not yet. We're trying to build a clean case. If I tell you and you confront them, they'll claim harassment, or they'll spin it into a family dispute. I don't need noise. I need clean facts. I exhaled. Understood. He studied me for a second. But I can tell you this. The person who brought it in used their own ID. That's how confident they were. My stomach nodded. And they're coming back to redeem it. Yes, Halverson said. That's where the hold ticket matters. I frowned. Explain it to me like I'm not in law enforcement. Halverson's mouth twitched like he almost smiled. Pawn shop holds the item. Customer gets a ticket. That ticket is proof of the transaction and the right to redeem. If the item gets flagged as stolen, we put a police hold on it. The shop can't release it. But the customer doesn't always know we've flagged it. So they show up, I said slowly, thinking they can buy it back. And they have to present the ticket, Halverson said. Or they have to answer questions about why they don't have it. Either way, it ties them to the transaction. I swallowed. You said the ticket turned up in a way that makes it complicated. Halverson nodded, expression hardening. The shop manager found the ticket because someone called asking if they could redeem without it. Then the same person showed up earlier today trying to get a copy. My heart kicked. Earlier today? Yes, he said, they didn't get it. Manager stalled, called us. I stared at him. So they're desperate. Halverson didn't soften. Or sloppy. Either way, they're coming back. We're going to be there. My palms went cold. Do you need me there too? Halverson hesitated. Not ideally. But sometimes the owner identifying the property in person helps, especially with unique marks. And your grandmother can't easily come to a pawn shop. I'll do it, I said. He nodded. Then you follow my instructions. You don't speak unless asked. You don't escalate. You don't react. That won't be a problem, I said, though my jaw was already aching from holding myself together for days. We drove separately. He told me which shop outside Durham, exactly like he said on the phone. A small, unremarkable building with faded signage, the kind of place you'd never notice unless you needed it. When I parked across the lot, I saw an unmarked vehicle already there. 2 men leaning near the entrance, looking casual in the way police try to look casual. The shop manager met us at the door. He was a middle-aged guy with nervous energy and a forced smile. Detective, he said, shaking Halverson's hand. Then he glanced at me. This is the grandson. Halverson said. He can identify the pieces. Where's the item? In the back safe, the manager replied. Still sealed in the bag. Halverson turned to me. You stay near me. We went inside, and the manager led us behind the counter into a cramped office area. He opened a safe and pulled out a clear evidence-style bag with a tag. Inside was the oval gold locket. Even through plastic, I recognized it instantly. Not because it was gold, but because I'd seen it on Grandma's chest 100 times. A familiar weight of memory. Halverson asked, Can you identify it? I nodded. Yes. Details, he said. I pointed. Oval locket. Yellow gold. The clasp has a slight bend on the right side. The back has tiny hairline scratches from wear. Halverson nodded. Anything inside? The manager handed him gloves. Halverson opened the locket carefully and angled it so I could see. Inside was a tiny black and white photo of my grandpa. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. Halverson flipped the inner edge where the engraving would be. Initials? A, I said, voice rough. The manager muttered, Well, damn. Halverson closed it and sealed it back. Then he looked at the manager. Now show me the transaction. The manager pulled up a computer record and slid a printed sheet across the desk. I didn't touch it, but I saw enough. A name, an address, a driver's license number, a timestamp, and the name was Megan Parker. For a second, my brain tried to reject it even though I'd predicted it. Seeing it in ink felt different. like a door slammed shut on the last excuse. Halvorson watched my face carefully. "You okay?" I swallowed. "Yeah, but I wasn't okay. Not because I cared about Megan's reputation anymore. She'd thrown mine into the street without hesitation. I wasn't okay because of my mom, because I knew what this would do to her. The way denial would crack, the way she'd scramble to patch it, the way she'd blame everyone except the person responsible." Halvorson leaned closer, voice quiet. "The ticket," he said to the manager. Manager opened a drawer and pulled out a copy, just a scanned print, since the original ticket stayed with the customer. "That's the number, that's the item description, that's her signature." Halvorson nodded. "We're going to wait, she'll come back." We moved to a position where we could see the entrance without being obvious. The two plainclothes officers outside drifted closer to the door. Time stretched. Minutes felt like hours. I kept thinking of Grandma's hands, her voice saying, "Do it quietly, and do it correctly." 20 minutes later, a familiar car pulled into the lot. Megan's car. She parked fast, like she was in a hurry. She stepped out wearing sunglasses, even though the day was overcast. She moved with purpose, not fear, like someone who believed she was untouchable. My mouth went dry. Halvorson murmured, "Stay behind me." Megan walked through the front door and the bell chimed overhead. She didn't see me immediately. She went straight to the counter, leaned in, and spoke to the manager with a polite smile, the kind of smile you use when you think you're controlling someone. "Hi," she said brightly. "I'm here to redeem an item I called earlier." Manager nodded, playing his part. "Sure. Need your ticket." Megan's smile faltered for half a second. "I misplaced it, but I have my ID." Manager shook his head. "We really need the ticket number." Megan leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was offering a secret. "I'm in a bit of a family emergency. The item is sentimental. Can't you look it up?" Manager hesitated dramatically. "We can try." Halvorson stepped forward then, calm as stone. "Megan Parker?" he asked. Megan froze mid-breath. Her head turned slowly. When she saw me standing behind Halvorson, something flickered across her face. Shock first, then rage, then a frantic attempt to rearrange reality. "Aaron," she blurted, "what are you doing here?" Halvorson held up his badge. "Detective Halvorson. We're investigating stolen property reported from an assisted living facility." Megan's lips parted. "Stolen property? What?" "No, this is..." Halvorson's voice stayed level. "You pawned an oval gold locket belonging to Evelyn Parker, your grandmother. You used your ID. The item was placed on police hold." Megan's eyes darted, searching for an exit. A story. Anything. Then she did what she always did. She turned it into an accusation. "He's lying," she snapped, pointing at me. "Aaron stole it and is trying to pin it on me. He probably used my information." Halvorson cut her off instantly. "Ma'am, we have your signature on the transaction. We have your ID scanned, and we have camera footage of you at this counter." Megan's face went pale. "That's no, I didn't." Halvorson nodded toward the officers at the door. "Please step aside." Megan took a step back, hands trembling. Then she tried the emotional pivot, voice cracking on command. "My grandmother is confused," she said. "She forgets things. I was just trying to keep it safe. I was going to buy it back." I heard myself speak before I could stop it. "Safe," I said quietly. "From who, Megan? From Grandma?" Megan's head snapped toward me, eyes blazing with hatred. "This is your fault," she hissed. "You couldn't just stay out of it." Halvorson's expression hardened. "Ma'am, you are being detained for questioning regarding possession of stolen property. Turn around." Megan shook her head rapidly, tears spilling now, real or not. "No, no, 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 call my mom, she'll tell you. She'll explain." One of the officers guided her hands behind her back. Megan's breath came fast, panicked, and in that moment I felt something unexpected. Not triumph, relief, because the record existed, because the truth didn't depend on my family believing me anymore, because Megan couldn't talk her way out of paper and timestamps. As they let her out, Megan twisted around and screamed at me in front of everyone in the shop. "You ruined my life." I stared at her and said the only thing I knew was true. "You tried to ruin mine first." Halvorson pulled me aside once Megan was in the car. "You did good," he said. "Now go home, let us work." "Will you tell my mother?" I asked. Halvorson's gaze was blunt. "We'll contact the victim and the responsible party. Your grandmother, your mother, whoever's listed." "Yes." My chest tightened again. "My grandmother is going to be devastated." Halvorson nodded, not unkindly. She'll be devastated either way. At least now she's not devastated and being lied to. I drove back to Raleigh with my hands steady on the wheel and my mind replaying Megan's face when she saw me. Shock, rage, fear, not remorse. When I got home, my phone was already buzzing. Mom, I didn't answer. It buzzed again. Mom again. Then a text. Mom, what did you do to your sister? I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar pull. Old guilt, old conditioning, begging me to rush in and comfort her, to make it easier, to smooth the mess. But I didn't. I typed one sentence. Me, I didn't do anything to her. She pawned Grandma's locket with her own ID. The detective will contact you. Then I set my phone down and sat at my kitchen table, staring at the wood grain like it held answers. 30 minutes later, there was pounding on my door. Not a knock. Pounding. I opened it and my mom shoved inside, face red, eyes wild. Behind her, my uncle and aunt were in the hallway, drawn like vultures to any disaster. My mom pointed at me, voice shaking. They took Megan. The police took Megan. Tell me you didn't do that. I closed the door carefully and turned back to her. I didn't do it, I said. She did. My mom's face contorted like she couldn't process it. No, Aaron, she said. She said you forced her. She said you threatened her. I felt my stomach drop. Of course Megan said that. Even in handcuffs, she was still trying to write the story. I took a slow breath. Mom, I said, the pawn shop has her signature, her ID scan, video footage. This isn't a misunderstanding. My mom shook her head violently, tears flying. She would never do that to her grandmother. My uncle stepped forward, voice booming like he was holding court. Aaron, if you're behind this, if you set her up. I stared at him. How do you set someone up to use their own ID at a pawn shop? My aunt crossed her arms. Megan said she was trying to buy it back, that she only did it because she knew you stole the rest. I felt something inside me go very still. There it was, the new story already forming, already spreading. Megan didn't deny pawning it. She reframed it as heroism. I looked at my mom. Did you hear yourself? I asked softly. You're still accusing me, even after the paperwork. My mom's voice cracked. Because I don't know what to believe. Yes, you do, I said. You just don't want to. My mom's eyes went wide, and my uncle barked, don't talk to your mother like that. I turned to him. Get out of my apartment, I said, calm and firm. All of you. They froze like they'd never imagined I'd say that. My mom whispered, Aaron. I held her gaze. I love you. But I'm done being your family's punching bag. The detective will explain everything. Until then, you don't come in here and accuse me. You don't bring relatives to intimidate me. You don't demand I fix what Megan broke. My mom's face crumpled, and for a second I saw the real fear under her denial. Fear of what it meant if Megan was guilty. Fear of what it meant about her own judgment. Then she whispered, barely audible, where is the rest of it? And I knew what she meant. If Megan pawned one piece, where were the others? I stared at my mother and realized we weren't even at the end yet. We'd found the locket, but the jewelry box had been full. My mom's question, where is the rest of it, hung in my living room like smoke. My aunt and uncle were still standing there, waiting for me to fold the way I always had, waiting for me to comfort my mother, apologize for the chaos, and accept whatever role the family assigned me so things could go back to normal. But there was no normal left to go back to. I don't know, I said, and that's not my job to figure out alone. My uncle scoffed. Easy for you to say now that Megan's in trouble. I looked at him. Megan put herself in trouble when she walked into a pawn shop with Grandma's locket and her own driver's license. My aunt's voice turned sharp. So you're enjoying this? That accusation, enjoying it, was the kind of manipulation my family loved. If you didn't fall apart in grief, you were heartless. If you defended yourself, you were guilty. If you stayed calm, you were enjoying their pain. I kept my voice level. I'm not enjoying anything. I'm relieved the truth is documented. My mom sank onto my couch like her legs stopped working. Her face looked older than it had a week ago. Your grandmother, she whispered. How do I tell her? Grandma already knows what Megan is capable of, I said quietly. She just didn't want it confirmed. My mom shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. I keep thinking there has to be an explanation that doesn't destroy our family. I stared at her for a long moment, then said the most honest thing I'd said out loud in years. Mom, the family was already destroyed, I told her. It was just hidden behind pretending. Megan didn't steal jewelry in a vacuum. She stole because she believed everyone would protect her. And she believed that because everyone has. My uncle stepped forward again, voice rising like he wanted to reset the power dynamic by sheer volume. "You watch your mouth." I didn't raise mine. "I'm watching it," I said, "and I'm also watching the door." "Leave." My aunt looked at my mom as if to get permission to be offended. My mom didn't even look up. They left with a lot of muttering and dramatic sighing, but they left. When the door closed, the apartment got so quiet that I could hear my refrigerator humming. My mom wiped at her face with shaking hands. "If the police have the locket," she said, "can we get it back?" The detective said there's a process. I replied, "It's evidence right now. Grandma will get it back when it's released." My mom stared at the floor. And if Megan sold the rest? The thought landed hard for both of us, because the locket wasn't just gold. It was a life. The next day, Detective Halverson called me again. His voice was brisk. "We're expanding the search," he said. "Based on the transaction, it's likely other items were moved. We'll be contacting additional pawn shops. We also have reason to believe some pieces may still be in her possession or in a place she has access to." "Can I talk to Grandma?" I asked. "You can visit her," Halverson said, "but don't discuss case strategy. Let us handle the questioning." "I understand," I said. Before he hung up, Halverson added, "Also your title phrase, that hold ticket you mentioned, we found it." My stomach dropped. "You found the original ticket?" "Yes," he said. "It turned up at the assisted living facility." For a second I couldn't speak. "Where?" "In a place that matters," he replied, "and it ties her directly. It wasn't just the shop record. It's the physical ticket she would have had to keep in order to redeem the item." I closed my eyes and let out a slow breath, because that was the part Megan couldn't talk her way around. A pawn shop record could be spun as someone used my ID, someone set me up, it was a mistake. But the physical hold ticket, the paper you keep because it's your key back to the item, that was intent, that was ownership, that was possession. Halverson didn't give me every detail, but he told me enough. After Megan's first blow-up at the facility, staff did a deeper sweep of the room and surrounding areas. They found a folded slip of paper wedged behind the dresser, like it had fallen during someone's frantic tidying. The same kind of folded slip I'd noticed on Grandma's dresser that first day. The ticket had the pawn shop's name, the transaction number, and a partial description that matched the locket. It also had Megan's signature printed on it in the same blocky style she used on every holiday card. It wasn't just evidence. It was the missing link between the story and the system. When I visited Grandma that evening, Denise met me at the door. She looked tired too, but there was something else in her expression, something like satisfaction, the way a professional looks when a liar finally runs out of room. "Your grandmother is awake," she said. "She asked for you." Grandma was sitting by the window again, blanket over her lap. The light outside was fading, throwing long shadows across the carpet. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She just studied me like she always did, like she was checking if I'd been bent out of shape by other people's noise. "You found it," she said. I pulled my chair close. "The detective found the locket and the ticket." Grandma's eyes narrowed. "So she planned to come back for it?" "Yes," I said. "That's what the ticket is for." Grandma stared out the window for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet, and it hurt more than any shouting. "I thought if I loved her enough, she would stop being hungry." I swallowed hard. "Grandma, this isn't on you." She didn't look at me. "It's on me a little," she said. "Not for what she did, for what I pretended not to see." I sat with that, because it was the truth she needed to say, not the truth I wanted to argue away. After a moment she asked, "Your mother?" "She knows," I said. "She's struggling." Grandma gave a small nod, like she'd expected that. "Your mother made Megan," she murmured. "Not by giving birth, by giving excuses." I didn't answer. There was nothing to add. Grandma turned her head slightly and looked at me. "And you?" "I'm done," I said. "Not done with you. Done with proving myself to people who enjoy doubting me." That made Grandma's expression soften. Just a fraction. "Good," she said. "That's the only inheritance worth having." Over the next 2 weeks, the truth kept expanding like a bruise you don't notice until the swelling spreads. Halverson's team flagged 2 more items at 2 different shops, the pearl bracelet and the blue stone ring. Different locations, different dates, same pattern. And every time a shop had an item, there was the same trio of things that didn't care about family loyalty. A record, a camera, a name. Megan tried to adjust her story again and again. First, she claimed she was protecting Grandma from me. When that collapsed, she claimed she was temporarily holding the jewelry to keep it safe. When the pawn shop dates came out, she claimed she was going to buy it back, like pawning someone's property was a normal safety deposit box. Then she tried one last move. She told anyone who would listen that I had turned the family against her, and that I was obsessed with ruining her. But there's a problem with that kind of defense. It requires people to believe the loudest voice in the room, and now the loudest voice was paper. Megan was charged. I won't pretend I enjoyed hearing that. It made me sick in a different way, because no one grows up dreaming of seeing their sister in that position, but I also won't pretend it wasn't necessary. She had stolen from an elderly woman who trusted her. She had tried to get me arrested to cover it, and she had done it all with the assumption that our family's usual script would protect her. Blame Aaron, pity Megan, move on. Once law enforcement got involved, my family's opinions stopped being the center of gravity. The case wasn't about who cried harder at the dinner table. It was about what could be proven. My mom called me one night after Halverson formally updated her. This time her voice didn't have anger in it. It had emptiness. I believed her, she said, barely above a whisper. I believed her so fast. I leaned back in my chair and stared at my ceiling. I know. There was silence on the line, and then she said, "I'm sorry." Those two words hit me harder than I expected. Not because they fixed anything, but because they were rare. My mom wasn't a woman who apologized easily. Not to me. "I'm sorry," she repeated, "for accusing you, for not protecting you." I could have used that moment to punish her, to list every time she'd chosen Megan's version of reality over mine, to unload years of being the family's default suspect. But I didn't want revenge. I wanted a different future. So I said, "Thank you for saying it." My mom started crying, and she sounded smaller than I'd ever heard her. "I don't know how to fix this." "You don't fix it by making me swallow it," I said. "You fix it by telling the truth, even when it makes you look bad." She sniffed. "Your grandmother won't speak to me." "She will," I said, though I wasn't sure. "But not on your timeline." Another long silence, then my mom asked, "Are you going to cut us off?" I thought about it, really thought about it, because for a long time I'd imagined boundaries as something dramatic. A door slam, a no-contact proclamation, a clean break. But real boundaries, I was learning, weren't dramatic. They were consistent. "I'm not cutting you off," I said carefully, "but I am changing the rules." "What rules?" she whispered. "No more accusations," I said. "If you don't know something, you say you don't know. You don't fill the gap with my name. And if Megan contacts me, you don't try to mediate it. You don't pressure me to be the bigger person. I'm done being bigger for everyone else." My mom was quiet. Then quietly, "Okay." That was the first time I'd ever heard my mother agree to a boundary without turning it into a debate. As for Grandma, once the jewelry was recovered and officially returned, we did something else. Something that felt almost more important than getting gold back. We documented everything. Grandma met with an attorney. She updated her will. She put specific items into a recorded list with photos and descriptions, including the identifying notch on the ring and the engraving inside the locket. She designated an executor who wasn't my mother. And she told me, in that calm voice of hers, "I'm not doing this to punish anyone. I'm doing this so no one gets to rewrite my life after I'm gone." That became the theme of the whole ordeal. Rewriting. Because that's what Megan had tried to do. She tried to rewrite herself as the protector. Rewrite me as the thief. Rewrite Grandma as confused and powerless. Rewrite my mom as the noble parent forced to make hard choices. But she couldn't rewrite a pawn shop ticket. She couldn't rewrite a timestamp. She couldn't rewrite a scanned ID. She couldn't rewrite her own signature on a record she thought no one would ever see. Months later, I ran into someone at the grocery store, a distant cousin, who looked at me like I was still a rumor. "I heard about what happened," she said cautiously. I nodded. "Yeah." She lowered her voice. "That must have been hard. But, you know, Megan is family." I looked at her for a moment, then said, "Grandma is family too." The cousin blinked, and I walked away. That's what it came down to in the end. Who counts when it's inconvenient? And here's the last thing I'll say, because I wish someone had said it to me before this happened. If someone tries to destroy your life with an accusation, don't get trapped in the emotional arena they built. Don't try to outcry them. Don't try to outperform them. Find the official trace, the record, the log, the ticket, the thing that exists whether anyone likes you or not. And when the truth finally shows itself, don't waste that moment trying to convince the people who enjoyed doubting you. Use it to build boundaries so you never have to beg for fairness again. Because the real justice wasn't just that the jewelry came back. It was that I stopped living like I had to earn basic decency from my own family. I don't, and I won't.